Welcome to Everyday Cooking with Ann. Today we are going to be making brownies. Brownies, you say? Okay, those are from a box. I know, why should I make all the trouble to go to make homemade brownies? I probably have a file myself of 150 recipes of different kinds of brownies, and how am I possibly going to make all of those? But the two brownie recipes I'm going to be sharing today are, I think, highly recommended, and they're a little different than your other brownies you may have tasted. What we're going to be comparing is two different kinds of frosted brownies because I think they are the absolute best. They're just the perfect amount of fudginess with the frosting on top. It's a true addiction. So today, let me show you what we're going to do for brownie recipe number one. These are our ingredients in this recipe. You want 6 1-ounce pieces of baker's chocolate. You can use Ghirardelli chocolate. I personally like Ghirardelli too, but I'm using both in these two recipes. This is baker's unsweetened chocolate. You get 4 ounces in one box. This calls for 6 ounces, so I had to find another box and do 6 ounces. In our flour mixture, it's very simple. We're just going to have, and I might as well do it for you while we're waiting right here, we're going to have a teaspoon of baking powder, and a whole teaspoon of salt. Okay, there we go. That's going to be all ready. That comes at the very end. Okay, inside of our saucepan, we're going to be putting 3 tablespoons of Calibre Royal Dutch processed cocoa. I've shown this cocoa in some of my other recipes that I use cocoa powder. It is really one of the best high quality, high fat cocos. I'll never go back to the other brand, you know, the one you see in the store again, because this cocoa is so amazing. You can order it from Orson Gigi in Salt Lake City and have it sent to your home. And this will last you a year or two, depending on how much you like to bake and how much people will beg you for this recipe and to make these brownies for you. So what's different about this recipe too is that we're going to be using brown sugar, not white sugar, 5 whole eggs, and vanilla. And in our saucepan here, we have ready to go in just a minute 2 cubes of unsalted butter. And over here, this is my prepared pan. The best way to make brownies or any cake or bar cookie is to line, I have a nice deep cake pan that I'm using, a 9 by 13 pan. You want to put a large sheet of aluminum foil and crease it all the way around so that it will make sure that all of the batter goes into all of the inside of the pan. When this is finished baking, you will move this whole thing out of the pan so it'll be easy to cut and make very beautiful looking brownies. And I'm going to, right now as we're standing here, I'm going to go ahead and spray this with my cooking spray to get ready for the batter which will go in there. I have my oven at 325 degrees. And now we're going to get started by putting this all together. Right now I have my 2 cubes of butter melting at about medium high in my 2-quart saucepan. And I'm going to add 2.5 cups of brown sugar. That seems like a lot to me, but that's what we're going to add right now. We're going to move this together, mix this together, and melt all of this together in this saucepan. So the butter will be melted, the brown sugar will be melted. This is just a different method of making brownies. Okay, we're also going to add our 3 tablespoons of cocoa. I'm going to whisk those in. Whisking is better than stirring when it comes to cocoa powder. So we want to whisk that in. Now when you note the recipe, when I post the recipe, realize you have to divide that recipe up a little bit because the first part of the recipe says 6 tablespoons of cocoa, and you're only going to put 3 of it in this because the other 3 tablespoons will be going into the frosting. So read the whole recipe before you just start dumping it all in and going, uh-oh, this was only supposed to be 3 tablespoons of cocoa. Okay, now we are going to whisk in 5 eggs. 1 at a time. So I'm going to And now I'm also going to add in the chopped chocolate that I showed you earlier. I've chopped it up so that it'll melt quickly. I'm adding this all into the saucepan. Till this is melted, I'm going to stir this constantly at about medium-low, because you don't want to burn chocolate. Okay, while that's finishing up melting, I'm going to go ahead and put my 2 teaspoons, that's a lot of vanilla, but that makes it really good, 2 teaspoons of vanilla right in there. And I'm going to off my heat now because I don't want anything cooking any more than just melting all of these ingredients. Okay, I'm going to move this over here a little bit and bring over my bowl of flour that's ready to be mixed in with our chocolate brown sugar mixture. And I'm going to add this right into here. And you want to just whisk this in until it's barely put in. You don't want to overbeat this, just until all of the flour and salt baking powder mixture is incorporated. Okay, I'm going to bring my pan over here, my prepared pan. This is quite hot. Notice we are not putting nuts into this brownie. This is not a nut brownie recipe. And I'm going to go ahead and add all of this to my prepared pan that has Pam spray. My oven is completely ready to have this come in it. It's at 325, not 350 like most recipes. And we're going to be baking this for 30 to 35 minutes, so you want to check it at 30 minutes, depending on your oven, how it runs. Spread this evenly in the pan. Place in the oven. My brownies baked exactly 30 minutes. I checked exactly at 30 minutes and it came out clean. My skewer came out clean right from the center, so I knew it was done. You do not want to overbake brownies. You don't want them to be kind of cakey and dry. So this is what is the beauty of using aluminum foil, so you can just take it right out of the pan. I've been letting it cool on this rack for about 30 minutes. It's still a little bit warm. And I'm going to undo this and just let it finish cooling completely. I'm going to be making the frosting next, but first let me make a little correction on the last segment when I was making the actual brownie on the stove. You want to have your brown sugar and your butter and your water and your chocolate all melted into the water. And then you want to turn that off. As soon as that's completely melted down, you want to turn your your stove off and let that cool a little bit before adding the eggs. And if you noticed in the video, I was adding a little bit of chocolate and adding the eggs in fairly quickly, but I beat them all both very, very quickly so that you weren't going to have little pieces of egg white. So don't make the mistake I did. Put all of your ingredients in, turn it off before putting the eggs in one at a time. Then you can put it all into your oven, into your flour mixture. Okay, that's a little correction. We'll be back in a little bit when we show you how this looks all frosted, and I'll show you how to make the frosting on the brownie number 1 that we're making today. And it includes a little bit of 3 tablespoons of our cocoa powder that we've used before. It has 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar. We have 1 cube of butter. I might as well just put that in right now. And we will also be adding in about 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla and 2 tablespoons of milk. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So let's get started. I've already put the butter in, and I'm going to add 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar. I'm going to turn this, oh, let's do the chocolate too. We have also powdered cocoa, my calibre chocolate, so we're going to do 3 tablespoons. You know the recipe had 6 tablespoons, 3 in the first in the batter, and now 3 in the chocolate frosting. Okay. And I'm going to mix this together just a little bit before I add the milk and the vanilla. I'm mixing the butter and the powdered sugar and the cocoa together here a little bit. We don't want to put it on too high because it'll be fluffing out all over the counter, all over my shirt. Okay, I'm putting in about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of vanilla. And 2 tablespoons exactly of just regular milk. This is basically a buttercream frosting. And I'm going to put this on heating on high for about 5 minutes. Our brownie number 1 is completely cool. We have made our frosting. And first thing that we're going to do, because we want for presentation purposes for our brownies to really actually look very perfect. So the best way to do that is you want to cut off the edges of your brownie cake. Okay, and I have some of the pieces here. I'm showing you how to do that. I love to use my trusty dough scraper that has a nice cutting edge that you can actually chop nuts and different things like that with it. It just is so handy and easy to use. And so I'm going to show you how. I'm just going to take the very edge here and just cut it right off. There. And then I'm going to use the other side and just very close, as close to the edge as possible so you're not wasting anything. I'm going to cut this off too. Now, I'm not going to waste these brownie pieces here. Your kids will eat them, I'm sure, or somebody will eat them. But I personally think that you should take these and put them in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. And when you're ready to make one of our ice creams and have brownie bits, like our chocolate ice cream with brownie bits in it, like you get at gourmet ice cream stores, that would be awesome. Just put all those little pieces in there. It would be so good. Okay, so now before we do anything else, we're going to just go ahead and take our frosting. It's very light and fluffy. Beat this frosting for 5 full minutes or more, which pretty much pulverized our butter. And this is kind of very fluffy and nice. I think that you will probably need to put this probably in the refrigerator to harden up a little bit. You don't want to leave this out if it's warm weather. We finally finished brownie number 1. And it turned out to be more of a cakey brownie than a fudgy brownie than I like. And everybody's got a different version of how they want their brownie to be. But look, take a look at this brownie and how beautiful it looks. You know, it does have the nice lighter chocolate frosting on it. It's cut just perfectly for just, you know, a couple of bites if you don't want to overdo it. And we thought that it was good, but not as good as things we tasted before because we have been around the block once or twice and we know what really good brownies should taste like. So we're going to compare this now to brownie number 2. And so this is brownie number 1.